Alright, so there is someone in the woods somewhere cutting down a tree. So if you hear a weird chainsaw noise in the background, that's what that is. So my brain fog is extremely bad the last 3 days. I think I know what it's from. I might talk about it in an upcoming video, but it's been rough. So hopefully I can tell a coherent story today for you to follow along. But today I wanted to talk about literally the most stressful insurance saga of my life. Oh my God. This, I swear to God, is what gave me shingles in January, because I got shingles 2 to 3-ish days after this whole saga started. I thought it would be very cathartic to tell this story, 1. 2, I think it's really important to share that it's really important to advocate for yourself, even with insurance, that you think would have everything figured out, but no. No, they didn't. And so I'm gonna do my best to not name my insurance's name, because this is not, you know, a bash my insurance session. I really just want to tell the story. There are a lot of lessons in here, and so I hope you can take those lessons. Hopefully you haven't had to go through this before, but if you have, maybe this is a little cathartic for you too, to know that you're not alone. This does happen, but it's just really, really stressful. So let me take you back 2 days before January 1st. My mom and I were like, that's so weird. We haven't gotten anything from my insurance company on how much I owe at the beginning of the year. Normally it like resets and you will owe a new amount. Usually goes up, right? So I was like, okay, like I don't even know how much I owe. We need to figure this out so I can write out my check, send it in the mail, whatever. Oh, and I should also mention I have Cobra. So I have my insurance company, and then I have a company that oversees the Cobra payments. So my Cobra is I aged out of my parents' insurance at the age of 26. You get 3 years to find your own insurance, which in my case will be Medicaid. So anyway, I'm guaranteed to have it, unless I don't pay, right, through my 29th birthday. So I was like, this is weird. We're looking up on the Cobra website and it was showing nothing. It was showing that I did not have insurance. We were like, what the heck? It like wasn't showing how much I owed. I was like, this is crazy. So we call them up. Actually, my mom calls them. Because I'm disabled, my mom does a lot for me, including a lot of these calls. However, a lot of them I have to do because they won't talk to her unless I give them permission. Anyway, my mom calls them up and they're like, yeah, it's like showing that you don't have insurance. They were like, yeah, this is like weird. We'll look into it, but you should call your insurance company. I already said the name of the company, so I had to re-say it. So anyway, then 2 days later, I get my first symptoms of shingles, by the way. We call my insurance company, and then they have to get on the phone with my Cobra company, because they're like, yeah, it's showing on our end from the Cobra company that you do not have insurance going forward. It's not stating why. It's just not showing it. And so then my insurance company, and this was literally my favorite person ever. This guy was trying so hard to get this figured out. Oh my God, another glitch in the system was that my Cobra company is listed incorrectly under my insurance company. So when my insurance company goes to look up who my Cobra company is, they keep being like, oh, is it this company? And I'm like, no, that's literally not it. So the first guy was trying to call this random company that's not even my Cobra company. Anyway, finally he's like, could I just have the number that you called? And we're like, yeah. So he calls the company. They won't talk to my insurance guy unless I'm on the phone too. So then he was like, okay, I need to call them while you're on the phone. Basically, they were like, we don't know what's going on. We're going to look into this. It's gonna take like a week or something for us to look into it, which is crazy because my insurance is due on the 1st of the year. You need to have it like postmarked. You do have a grace period for like a month, but as we found out, the grace period, whatever glitch in their system, the grace period, they were like, oh, you don't have insurance because you didn't pay even though you had this grace period. Very weird, very confusing. Again, I think it was just a huge glitch in their system and I should have had that grace period, but whatever. So they're like, yeah, you don't have insurance right now. We can't figure out what it is on our end. We're gonna start a case number. Now, my mom had been told that on the first day that they started a case number. When I called my insurance company and then they helped to call, then they said, oh, we're gonna mark this case number urgent so that it will be done faster. But I cannot pay until I know how much I owe. So I'm stuck in this limbo of like, they could yank away my insurance because I haven't paid, but they haven't told me how much I owe. insanity. They basically were like, yeah, I would not go to your doctor's appointments until we have this figured out. I had to cancel a Johns Hopkins appointment. I had to cancel like a whole week of appointments because they were like, yeah, we're like not sure if you actually have insurance. Even though the insurance person, that's the Cobra people were telling me that, even though my insurance person was like, oh, you should have insurance. It's saying it's active in our system, so you should be fine. Well, the next Monday is when I ended up in the ER, and they denied my claims for most of January. And that was even with canceling so many appointments. So frustrating. So anyway, we do not hear back about this case number. They said that they would contact us. They never contacted us. I had to contact the Cobra company again and say like, what is going on? And they were like, oh, you know, there's some sort of glitch or something. It's all figured out now. You should be good to go. And so yeah, you're good. You can go to doctor's appointments and stuff. I was like, okay. Like, they never would tell me what was wrong, and that was a consistent theme throughout, so that I could like fix it or in the future know to avoid something. No, they would not tell me what was wrong. This was like probably 10 days in a month or something. But then my claims keep getting denied, and it does not list. That was the thing. They kept listing my dental insurance. They would not list medical insurance like online when I would go online. So this kept happening. Like, they were denying claims, saying that I did not have insurance. So I called again. We went through it with this person. She ended up calling my Cobra company again with us while we were on the phone. And I actually had a meltdown on this phone call. This is probably my first autistic meltdown as an adult that I know of or remember, because I remember as a kid I would have meltdowns like going through car washes or dealing with, thank you baby, or dealing with like automated things. So while I was on the phone, I was kind of freaking out because the person was like, you don't have insurance because you didn't pay. And I was like, I did not pay because you would not tell me how much I owed. That is not my fault. And you are withholding my insurance because of your problem. I was losing it. And so I was getting so overcome with emotion that I was like starting to cry, and I had to just start pacing. And so my mom had to take the phone. And then when the supervisor came on, she had to like explain everything. And he was like looking into it, and he was like, yeah, this is really weird. I like don't know how this happened. They kept bringing up my pharmacy that had switched. And I was like, that literally happened like a year ago. So that cannot be the problem of why this is happening. So they kept just like bringing up random stuff that like wasn't the actual problem. And so he said, you should have insurance. Yes, for sure. And I'm gonna send this to your insurance company, because that was Cobra. Sorry, this is such a confusing story, but I just need to talk about it. And so he was like, we are going to send it over ASAP to your insurance company. So it should be sent to their like claims coordinator or something. And then the insurance person on the phone said it'll take 7 to 10 days. This is already like so far into January. And I was like, all right, whatever. So then at the end of that call with my insurance company, there was a survey. And I was like, look, this has been happening for a long time, for several weeks now. It has not gotten figured out. They keep saying it's getting figured out. It's not getting figured out. So I'm not happy. And so then I had a supervisor maybe, or maybe just like a client coordinator, I don't know. She called me independently. It had been like a week after that call, and this supervisor called me and said that she would look into this. And I said, well, they said it would take 7 to 10 days. And she was like, oh, it won't take that long. I'm like, it's literally already been 7 days, but whatever. She said, I'll look into this. We'll figure this out. And then the next week it still wasn't getting figured out. And so she called me back and she said, I talked to one of our, you know, people behind the scenes, and they were like, we didn't even get anything from your Cobra company. And I was like, you mean I've been waiting here for it to go through and the Cobra company didn't even send it? She said, I'm gonna look into this more. And then she called me back like 5 minutes later and she was like, oh, it went through. So obviously on that point, it was my insurance company's problem, who somehow hadn't put something through. She was like, in 24 hours, all of your denied claims will be reprocessed and your insurance is live now and you're good to go. And I, at this point, had just been so frustrated because I had over $3,000 in medical bills from my ER visit, from the shingles that I swear to God they triggered because shingles is triggered by stress. And I started having symptoms 2 days after this whole saga started. I do not have $3,000 to pay these medical bills. And so I was so incredibly stressed for all of January because I don't have this money to pay. She was like, 24 hours. And I was like, okay. So I had also had a prescription that I needed refilled, and my pharmacy was like, no, you don't have insurance. So I kept calling back the insurance person who was helping me, being like, this is not resolved yet. And it ended up taking weeks after, literally until the end of February. I had to call my insurance company one last time to say it has been weeks. These claims are still denied. Finally, my mental health company kept putting through, or actually I physically had to keep putting through my insurance because it was still the same number and everything, until my mental health company finally said, oh, we're good. But I kept being given these like notices, like, you don't have insurance, you're gonna be kicked off of our mental health like platform unless you like figure this out. And I kept getting, you know, doctor's office calling me being like, you have this outstanding bill because you don't have insurance. So it was like insane. So finally, the end of February, I called my insurance company again and I said, look, these denied claims are like not having been reprocessed. Like, what is going on? He said, I will manually resubmit them for processing. And so finally, after 2 whole months of actively paying for insurance, by the way, they finally have reprocessed those claims and not denied them. But it has been so incredibly stressful. Like, I just can't believe how many phone calls it took. And as someone with autism, I can't handle phone calls very well. So it was such a stressful 2 months of being like, do I have insurance? Do I not? Once they said I do have insurance, like, are they going to reprocess those claims? Have they already reprocessed them and then re-denied them? Like, it was crazy. I did end up getting my prescription in time from my pharmacy, so that all went well. My mental health platform kept me on because I also provided a case number being like, look, this is the case number that they say I have insurance, and so that ended up working out. But it was so stressful and such a long saga, and I can't believe it finally was just all figured out after 2 whole months, because I've been waiting to tell you all about this and I thought it would be a lot sooner, but no, it ended up being 2 months later because it took that long to resolve the whole thing. So fingers crossed, I think it is all resolved now, but my God, it has been a nightmare. And so I think just the importance is continuing to call back, because if I hadn't done that, they might never have reprocessed those claims and they might have just kicked me off without knowing that it was a glitch in their system. Just the insanity. So yeah, I really think it's so important to advocate for yourself, which sucks because when you're so sick and are disabled and have chronic illness, it's not fair to have to advocate for yourself to this degree. So anyway, thank you for listening. I know it was a little scattered because my brain fog is so bad right now. It is really difficult to create a coherent thought in my head with this brain fog. But thanks for listening, my friends. I would love to hear, have you ever had a saga like this before? What are your tips for like advocating for yourself or navigating this medical system? Because we all know how frustrating it is. And so yes, I will see you all next week, my friends. Thanks for being here. Talk to you soon.